Hello everyone, it's Dino again. I'm back with my Pisound and ModeP, and this time I have a fretless bass as my sound source. And this bass is an Ibanez EDA905F. It's a fretless 5-string bass made in the early 2000s. It's I think I got it in 2004. And it has a synthetic body made of something that Ibanez calls luthite. It has a maple neck, but it has a carbon composite fingerboard, which is very strong, very stable, and hasn't hardly required any adjustments in the years I've owned it. I have Thomas stick jazz strings on it, and then it has a electric active humbucker pickup here in the sweet spot position, and then there are piezo pickups in the bridge. Those are individually adjustable also by poles in the back. There are 2 volume controls, one for each pickup, and then there are 2 tone controls, one that's a bass boost for the electric pickup, and the other one that is sort of a presence for the piezo. The presence kind of brings full dynamic range, full frequency response for the piezo pickups, which picks up some of the string and finger sounds and kind of gives a more acoustic sound to the instrument and a wider range of sounds for you're applying different signal effects and things like that. Right now I have it set up where everything's kind of midline. The volumes are blended for the 2 pickups, and they're not at full. They're about 2/3 of the way to maximum. And then the tone controls are both zeroed out so that they are neither cutting or boosting. And with that, I'm going to leave those controls alone throughout the demo today. And then I'm going to use my Pisound as the signal processing source. I've got the Pisound set up here with an instrument cable coming in from my bass, and I've got a stereo cable. It's actually a splitter cable with left and right channels going to my workstation. So now we'll be able to hear in stereo, everything that this Pisound is producing. We're going to go to the web interface like we were, and we'll do all of our tests and effects here. So let's have a listen. I have the bass set up right now using a direct input, and as I mentioned in the earlier video, it just has a single gain stage here, this little gain control, and I've set it to kind of match the volumes of the other patches. And so basically we're just hearing a direct signal from the bass. Let's hear how it sounds. I've always loved the sound of this bass. Such a rich, deep low end, such definition. So it sounds great direct, but now let's see if we can improve it with some additional patches. So I set up those patches, that Sans Amp patch and the Triamp patch. I'm going to just start with those. They sounded really good on the other Ibanez bass, which was around the same vintage as this, but wood body and was a fretted bass, of course. So now let's hear what the Sans Amp patch sounds like on this bass. So still cool, a little throaty, like a little more warmth. Also a little more click, a little more attack, which is interesting. I know that the song I'm playing, Sledgehammer, was actually played an octave higher and with a pick, 4-string fretless, and then an octave doubler playing the low note. But I just enjoy getting the low tones out of this, so I'm playing it at low. But the attack is interesting, and it kind of brings more of that sound in from the original recording. I don't play with a pick, never have really, and so anything I can do to give me more dynamic range on the attack of the instrument. Of course, slapping gets you there, but on a fretless, fingerstyle is mostly what you're doing. So I like the fact that this has a little more attack on it and allows me to do things that are a little more punchy in the mix. Pretty cool. All right, well, I said we would try it. Let's go and do our tri-amp, see how we like that on a fretless. Again, this one has the 3 paths for the signal. It has a clean, crisp high end, which might be interesting for some of the kind of dynamics you can get with the piezo pickups. It has a kind of grindy, mid-range, growly mid-range, which will be interesting to, get the moi sound out of the fretless, see if that gets picked up. And then we've got a clean low end, which is just, all the bottom you can carry. And let's see if that guy comes through. So I'll just do a couple things with this one. So interesting. The low end is a little more distorted. Maybe it's because there's more mid-range in the low notes on this bass. It's just got a, richer harmonic structure. The other thing is the moi is there for sure. I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. It's cool. The attack is interesting. Maybe I could scoop this a little bit more and play with the low end and, get something that just has a really, rich, that low end I think is something that I'm just totally in love with on this bass, and I don't feel like it's coming through as much on this patch. Okay, so the other thought I had was to try some more exotic effects with this instrument. What I have set up here is actually based on the same SansAmp patch, but I have actually a chorus in there, and I have an auto tune. I'm just curious about the quality of the auto tune on the Pisound, so I'm experimenting a little bit with it. The other thing I can do is bring an octaver in here, and just to sort of see how that looks, you can type and you can filter your list of effects based on the string that you put in there. So now I have categories up top here, and then I have just all the effects that have octave somewhere in them. And so I can grab an octaver. See, actually there's a cool one here that is super whammy. So what I can do is actually split my signal. Now I'm post the auto tune, got the octaver in here, and I can dial up the tone I want. So let's listen to what this sounds like. I have the auto tune off right now, so you can hear the chorus right off the bat. Big fat chorus. Now I've got that harmonizer in there. Well, sorry, the whammy in there. So now we got the octave in there, which is pretty cool. And now let's put the auto tune on. Now I think for this one I don't have it set with very tight. Here, here are the settings. I think you can have very tight tracking on there. So there's some medium and tight correction, fast correction if I turn that on. I'll try that in a minute. But let's just see what happens, and I've zoomed in onto this effect to see kind of how my intonation looks and how it's interpreting it. I gotta turn it on. Okay, it's on. Interesting. It doesn't track the very lowest notes. Maybe there is a tuning or a some capability here that I don't know about in terms of improving the tracking. So that's something to learn. There's a pitch bend range. There is this fast correction. I think I'll try that. And then you can actually suppress certain notes so you can get to a scale. That's really not what I'm after here, although that's an interesting feature. They have little dip switches for those here on the control, the underlying control settings. But there's actually a keyboard here where you can toggle on and off each note. So let me go ahead and try to turn that fast tracking on. Fast correction, rather. See what kind of sound I get. It's like putting the frets back into my fretless. Interesting. It still has a lot of the bendy bits of the fretless coming through. So again, this is just first time experimenting, just seeing what this is about. But it's pretty interesting, and especially if I do some more parallel signal processing where I can have the corrected note and the hand articulated note in the same mix or split, and then record both at the same time so that I have the clean and the corrected both in my mix or both in the live house. Maybe let the sound man choose to decide whether I'm playing in tune or not. But pretty interesting. I think there's just a lot of interesting stuff that goes on. I think I said the word interesting too much. With this, with the availability of these effects for the bass. You know, it's just not common for a bass player to have 100 pedals. And I've seen guitarists with what looks like an air traffic control station where they can, you know, land airplanes with their pedal boards. I'm not quite there yet, but I just love the ability to be able to explore and experiment and learn. And then, of course, find something musical, find something innovative, and use it in a live setting or in a studio setting. You know, just the access to these tools at your fingertips alone makes this process just totally different than if you had to go and like find the latest Electro-Harmonix pedal, wait for it, plug it in, have all this instrumentation, have all these patch cables, ground hums, loops, power supplies, endless, you know, kind of fiddling with that sort of thing. I'm sure a lot of people really enjoy that. This has got that kind of skeuomorphic looking actual object, kind of virtual objects in the screen here, so you get your knob twiddle fix a little bit doing this. Although, you know, computers have other ways of providing this information. So I like the fact that it's there and available in a non-UI, a little bit more generic format as well. Anyway, I think I can stop here. Hopefully, you know, your interests are piqued and you will invest the time it takes to set up one of these devices and, you know, load the software and try out some of these things yourselves. I think it's worthwhile, and especially if you have the combined skills and interest of being a musician and being a little technical. So I hope this is interesting to you, and thanks a lot. I'll talk to you again soon.